Good evening. First tonight, Jersey's new hospital could be built on sites that were rejected by the last States Assembly after all. It's been 2 years since the government decided to build the new facility on the existing Gloucester Street location after discounting possible alternatives.
But since the election in May, a new panel of politicians was established to look at that decision-making process. And they say they found flaws. Well, let's get more from our reporter Daniel Skip, who's live outside the hospital now. Daniel.
Emma, if you've been following the Brexit drama in the UK today, welcome to Jersey's very own version of that. It's 7 years since politicians decided we needed a new hospital here, and we've been rowing about where to build it ever since. But 124 pages of this new report are very critical about building it here on the current site. So does that mean we're now going back to the drawing board? Or whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, the clock is ticking. Inside Jersey's hospital, time is running out. A building experts have concluded is not fit for purpose, can only keep islanders healthy for so long. But time could be about to be extended because two familiar proposed sites could now be revisited. This report concludes that political reasons prompted the decision to drop the waterfront as a preferred site, adding that the previous Council of Ministers failed to provide proper justification for ruling it out. Meanwhile, the Overdale site, which was ruled out by the previous Health Minister because of poor access, should now be re-examined, according to this report. For those who always said building on the current site was wrong, this is a lifeline.
It's an absolute godsend to the people that have said all along that this is the wrong site. And we've now got to move forward, put the past behind us. 25 million was spent. It was a big mistake, and we can blame others, but we've got to move forward and choose the right site.
I mean, someone might say, though, going back to the drawing board now, after everything that's been done, it's a mess.
It's a mess. Sure, it's a mess, but it's a mess of the previous government.
Another conclusion made in the report is that clinicians' views weren't properly considered when the decision was made, something that Dave Cavildew has argued for as a regular patient.
After 5 weeks of being in hospital, 3 weeks and 2 weeks, I haven't met anybody in the hospital who wants it to be built there. Anybody. And that goes right across the board. If you stop now, you'll cause less distress in the long run to our future generation.
But Jersey's Health Minister hasn't shown any sign of stopping. Today, Deputy Renouf addressed questions from politicians but refused to address the media.
In all the recommendations, you disagree with all of them. That's what you...
No, not all of them, but it's fair to say perhaps the most significant.
Yeah.
I have to say, I think it's unfair for me to give my explanation to you today when I've not yet had an opportunity to give it to the Council of Ministers.
He gave a very candid response to our scrutiny panel today. He quite rightly wants to sit with the Council of Ministers, now where this report lies, so they can have that discussion. But it was very clear from the previous report into the decision-making politically of the hospital site selection process that there were mistakes. Next week we'll hear back from the independent inspector, tasked to review the resubmitted plans for the current site. Whatever the outcome of that, the final say will go back to the Assembly in early 2019. Well, joining me now is the Chair of the Hospital Policy Development Board, Constable Chris Taylor. Thank you for joining us this evening. Firstly, Constable, will you agree that politically this is all getting very messy? I mean, why are we now talking about two other sites again?
I think it's important to understand that this site has been pushed through. Having looked at the evidence, and we've gone through enormous amounts of evidence, we haven't found sufficient to support this site in preference to other sites.
But what weight does this report actually have? We've got another panel that are reviewing what's going on here. What will this report actually mean?
Well, the Chief Minister has said that there will be a final debate in January to give endorsement to the previous Assembly's decision to build on this site, or not, as the case may be, and this report is to feed into that state's debate.
I mean, you, and I think the Chief Minister as well, have been vocal about this not being the preferred site. To what extent was this just a hand-picked bunch of politicians who really kind of were going to come to a pretty simple conclusion?
Certainly not, no. If you look at my voting record, you will see that although I brought an amendment, as soon as that amendment was defeated, I put my shoulder to the wheel and I have fully supported this site. I was careful in picking new states members onto the board who hadn't been through any history before. One of them during his election campaign was vocal, but the others had not expressed interests.
Well, just briefly, I mean, you've seen the evidence now, you've been doing the research. Where do you think the site should be?
Well, the two sites were put forward are the Waterfront and Overdale. But of the two, I would pick Overdale. I think there is enormous opportunity for a magnificent hospital there. OK, well, thank you for joining us. That's all we have time for tonight. I think the big one next week will be when we hear back from the independent planning inspector. Make sure you tune in to ITV Channel TV for all the updates on that one.
Daniel Skip live at Jersey Hospital. Thank you.